in West Virginia, along the Elk River, chemicals have seeped into the water supply there, affecting the health of about 300,000 residents. Officials didn't really know that this was going on. What ended up happening was residents there started calling in, complaining to officials that the air kind of smelled like licorice. And upon further investigation, they found out that a chemical called 4-methylcyclohexane methanol has seeped into the water supply there. And the chemical is used to clean coal. And as we all know, West Virginia is a pretty big coal state, and it affected the drinking water there. So 300,000 people without tap water for at least 5 days. And we don't know yet what the long-term effects are for the health of the people within the region, as well as the ecological damage that has been done, especially along the Elk River.
The U.S. House of Representatives passed H.R. 2279, otherwise known as the Reducing Excessive Deadline Obligations Act, which would basically eliminate the power of the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, to impose cleanup deadlines following any toxic spills like this. 2 Republican representatives and 1 Democratic representative in West Virginia, and all 3 of them supported the H.R. 2279, all 3 in support, in almost nearly every House Republican. One of the things that's particularly vexing about this legislation is the bill shifts the cost of the cleanup efforts onto the public, even more onto the public, and not the companies responsible for doing this. It also weakens the government's power to enforce any legislation for corporations like Freedom Industries to carry insurance designed to cover potential cleanup efforts for this. So, you know, it's very difficult to not be angry about this and not to be angry at the congressmen and women who are voting for this. So this is a local problem, right? So right now it's just West Virginia. But we have a U.S. Government Accountability Office, and in May, I think, of 2013, they issued a report to tighten these rules. And in their report, they said there are over 50,000 sites in the United States that need environmental cleanup. And it also stated in this report that the taxpayers have paid more than $30 billion for cleanup of toxic sites. This gets into the issue of regulation or deregulation, so many things, and what does this mean for the EPA, and what are corporations responsible for in this cleanup? And so, as you can see, I'm very passionate about this issue.
As rightfully so, and it's funny too, because we have this Toxic Substances Control Act passed in 1976, which obviously needs updating. And right. I mean, a lot of the chemicals that exist now, aren't even being looked for because it wasn't a part of this act. In fact, the MCHM, which is the acronym for the chemical that they found in the Elk River, utility companies don't even look for it because it's not a part of what they need to look for. Wow. So you have these agencies that are supposed to watch these companies that are big polluters, but these corporate polluters and their congressional allies have fought really hard against it, to the point that yes. EPA doesn't have a whole lot of teeth when it comes to a lot of these things. The actual company, which is, we haven't even talked about how awesome their name is, right? Right. Freedom Industries. Freedom Industries hadn't had an inspection since 1991. So, which is ridiculously long. And they call it Chemical Valley, right? And they call it that for a reason. This was, right. It's obviously a big problem there. And there was warnings about Elk River's susceptibility to chemical spills like this back in 2002. and not much attention was paid to it. And we can see what happens when there's neglect, along this area.